My story didn't end, it began again. Hello, people of God. Welcome to Stories That Heal with Tashi. And first of all, allow me to thank you for taking your time to be part of this podcast and to hear what Tashi has to say to you people. It really means a lot to me. It really means a lot to me. Let me just talk a bit about this podcast. This is something that has been within me for a very long time. And when I say a long time, I mean a long time. You know, it's a thing where I kept telling myself to say, okay, one day I'll start. One day I'll start. And as all of us may know, one day has a way of always turning into weeks. It turns into months. It turns into years. Then I realized something. I said, okay, if I truly believe that it is never too late to start over again, then I have to leave the message myself. And so today, I'm taking the step. Yeah, I'm taking the step today. So once again, welcome to Stories That Heal with Tashi. And I would want you people to know that this is a place where we are going to have honest conversations about life, honest conversations about healing, about faith, about purpose, about hope. And I also want to make mention to you people that this is not a place where people are going to pretend. We are not going to pretend as if things are okay. We are not going to pretend as if everything is perfect. We are just going to go with the flow. We are just going to let it flow the way it is. And you know, this is where you and me are going to remind each other that broken pieces also make very beautiful articles at the end of it all. This is a place where we are not going to judge each other. We are going to live your pain. We are going to go through your painful experience. We are going to go through your rejection as well as go through my rejection, go through my pain, and together we are going to find a solution, because I refuse to believe that we are stuck. I refuse to believe that we have no way out. I refuse to believe that it is over, because just like I said, my story, it didn't end. It is beginning again. So is your story going to begin again, and together we are going to build a strong platform where people are going to find solutions to their rejection, to their pain, to whatever they are going through that they feel they do not have air, they do not have a way out, there is no future and all. So let's be here, let's stick together and see what God has in stock for us. So yeah, a bit about my life, about my story. So for many years, I thought some of the chapters that I went through were going to define me forever, you know. Like, there are seasons that I imagined I would never have to walk through. And at some point, I would ask God a lot of questions that I feel most of you have also asked God those questions. Like, why me? Why is this happening to me? I would ask God, like, will life ever make sense for me again? Right now, looking back where I'm coming from, I'm realizing now that those questions didn't make me weak. No, those questions did not make my faith weak. They actually made my relationship with God to be honest, to a point where I would ask my Father exactly what I felt. Of course, there were times that I didn't get answers to my questions, but I kept walking. And sometimes I feel that's what faith looks like, you know, where you have no answer or you don't have answers to everything, but you still take the next step anyway. For me, that felt like that's faith, you know. There were situations where you'd sit and then you think, okay, I feel there's no life for me after this. You would want to make a step, but you feel there is no life for you after whatever you are facing at that particular moment. And so I sat and succumbed to a lot of abuse. I succumbed to a lot of mental abuse. emotional abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, you can name it, because I feared to take that one step, you know. And as time went on, a turning point came. So one day something happened that completely changed the way I looked at my own pain, you know. Someone came carrying their burden. They came to me crying and started telling me about their issue. And so as they were talking to me, I realized that, wow, this is where I had stood once. I had stood exactly where they were standing once in my life. Suddenly, the tears that I felt, I cried, the disappointments that I felt no one understood, the nights I thought no one could just come to my aid and say, okay, I understand you, were not meaningless anymore. God used those very experiences to help me encourage someone out there. That day, I stopped asking God why. The why changed now to another question, to say, Lord, how can you use this? How can I use this to the benefit of this person that has come to me? The question changed from why me, Lord, to Lord, how can I use my experience to help this person that is standing right in front of me? And to tell you the truth, that's where everything changed for me. Okay, so now let's talk about why I started this podcast. Why I started Stories That Heal with Tashi. I basically did not start this podcast because I have a perfect life. No. I didn't start this because I have all answers. No. I started it because I know what it feels like to need hope. I know what it feels like to need someone to stand by you. I know what it feels like to just crave for a shoulder to lean on, for a shoulder to cry on. I know what it feels like to begin again. I know what it feels like to smile while you are carrying a silent battle. Like, how do you even smile when in the night your pillow is ever wet? I know what it feels like when one conversation, one encouraging word, one person who truly understands can come through and change everything for you. That's why Stories That Heal with Tashi is now existing. It's as simple as that. I don't have everything figured out. I don't have the solutions to everything. I don't have answers to all your problems. But I know the moment that you come open, someone who may have been through what you are bringing on board is going to have a perfect solution for you. I may not have gone through the situation you are going through, but someone who has gone through whatever you're going through will be able to come on board and lay it out for you. And then you'll be able to pull through. You'll be able to rethink that stuck thing in your mind to say, no, there is hope again for me. That's why now this podcast was birthed. That's the reason why Stories That Heal with Tashi has been brought on board. Okay, so the question that is on people's minds now is, what will this podcast be all about? Okay, I think I've mentioned about the podcast, what it's going to be all about, but I think I have to place an emphasis on what this podcast is going to be about. So here we're going to talk about life. We are going to talk about faith. We are going to talk about heartbreaks. Yeah, we are going to talk about heartbreaks. I've been through that before. It's funny how I've healed out of that, but I've been through that before. I've been through a heartbreak before, Not once, not twice, as many times as one can count. Yeah. So this podcast, we are going to talk about heartbreaks. We are going to talk about healing. We are going to talk about relationships. We are going to talk about purpose. We are going to celebrate victories. Like, okay, Tashi, how did you manage? And we are going to celebrate me. Say, wow, woman of God, this is nice. You came out of it victorious. So we are going to celebrate people's victories here. We are going to cry if need be. We are going to cry together like, and my tears are just here like, we are going to cry together. We are going to laugh together. But most importantly, we are going to remind each other that nobody walks alone. Nobody has to walk alone. Nobody has to walk alone. That's the most important part of this podcast. So we are going to talk about all those things, but most importantly, people will have to know that no one is supposed to walk alone. No one will have to walk alone. Okay, so I don't know where you are listening to this podcast from. You may be seated in your car listening to this podcast. You may be lying on your bed, awake at night. You may be wondering, God, will this life ever get better for me? You may be asking yourself, is there a way out for me? I don't know your story. Believe you me, I don't know your story, but I know one thing for sure. Your story isn't finished. Your scars don't make you worthless. They remind you that you survived. They remind you that God has carried you this far. And if God has brought you this far, there's still more ahead of you. Hold on. Open up. God is listening. God is just right by you. God is just there holding your hand, because the Bible says, even if you go through fires, even if you go through the waters, even if you go through the wilderness, I shall be with you. And I want you to know, whatever you are going through right now, God is right by your side. God is going through that with you. It may seem as if he's not there. It may seem as if he's quiet. It may seem as if he has abandoned you. But I'm here to remind you that God is right there with you. So before we end today's episode, I want to leave you with one thought. Don't be ashamed of your story. One day, the chapter you wanted to hide may become the chapter that gives someone else hope. Thank you for spending time with me. Thank you for sparing time to listen to my podcast. And I'm so grateful that you are here. I'm so grateful that you are watching. I'm so grateful that you are you. This is only the beginning. My name is Tashi Victory, aka Roxy. And this is Stories That Heal with Tashi, because your scars have a story and every story can heal. Stay blessed.